Thank you so much for doing this. Just to give everybody a little bit of a backstory, we met at this Women in Business event, right?
Yes.
Yes. And you had gone up, so we were supposed to there was a moment where all of us had the opportunity to go up on stage in front of all these women and say what our business was. And when you went up there, like it was what you said was so interesting because I feel like no one really talks about like being a healer's healer, which I think we desperately need. And it makes sense because it's like we're giving, giving, giving all the time, and we don't really take the time to replenish that.
Yeah.
So, did you want to speak a little bit about that? Can you kind of give a little?
Um, it's interesting because it was a business event, but for like spiritual practitioners. And I didn't go in there thinking about promoting anything. I just I kept asking the universe to show me what was next and how to present myself next. And this opportunity came up, so I just jumped in and I had no expectations. I just went in there to just participate. And it's funny because as an actor, you would think that I would love to jump on stage and to be a performing individual like in the spotlight, but that really isn't my style.
Yeah.
So I was uncomfortable but comfortable, if that makes any sense, because now it wasn't about performing. It was really just about being me in that moment. And I had been hashtagging in my head, like, what is exactly the difference between what I have been doing all these years and the next step I'm going into, you know? And the only thing that kept resonating is the healer's healer, a healer for the healers. Because as you said, we all need healers. I mean, I see a variety of healers. But because my practice is so deep and it targets like a really high level of awareness and darkness at the same time. And I feel that a lot of healers, like you said, are giving, 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 and don't even realize what is affecting their energetic soul system.
Right. And I think that's so important. And I was like, it was funny because years ago, I remember years ago, I was thinking, are there any healers for the healers? Because it seems like it's a lot of intensive work. So that's going to lead me into my first or second question for you. When did you realize that you were sensitive, and what does that mean for you? Like, are you highly sensitive to energy? Is it also physical, sensitivity? Like, can you pick up what someone's physical symptoms in your own body? What's that like for you?
So I'd like to ask you, what is your definition of sensitive?
For me, God, it's so it's there's so many variations of it for me because I feel like there's the sensitivity that comes with being in your ego where you
Mm.
take things personally. And then there's the genuine sensitivity where it's oh, you really feel so deeply and it's not coming from an ego space. It's just how you naturally are. And from that aspect, I that's what I'm asking. And from there, it's it kind of goes off into various things. Like there are people who are really sensitive to energy. Like they can pick up the vibrations of what's going on around them. And that can be overwhelming or it can be really soothing depending on where they are and their experience. And then underneath that, it could also go into, for people who are empathic, it's there are some that are sensitive to energy. There are some that are really sensitive where they can pick up physical pain if someone around them is feeling that kind of pain. Thoughts even, picking up what people are thinking or kind of can tell what people are thinking. Um, and yeah, so it's I'm still trying to figure out that definition for myself because it's
That's why I was like, well, before I answered it, I wanted to see what your perception of it, because even just listening to you, I understand everything that you're saying, because I get a lot of that from a variety of people that I've crossed paths with. My story is interesting because I guess I didn't know I was affected. I'm going to use the word affected
Mm-hmm.
by negative energy um, until I became older. I was a child who was in a very I guess as all of us who are on this journey most can relate to the fact that sometimes our childhoods could be very traumatic or the environment that we're in can be very intense.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was constantly bleeding through my nose
Mm-hmm.
or constantly nauseous and very like stomach related ill. And nobody could ever figure out what was going on with me. I mean, I went to tons of doctors all my life, and it would happen in the most random places. I could be sitting in class, in a class, just listening to the teacher speak, and I would just start bleeding. Or I'd be on the train, and I would just get violently sick. So it wasn't until my awakening, we'll call it, I don't even want to call it awakening, it was a remembering.
Yeah.
The way I received the knock up, like I want to call it the knock on my head,
Mm-hmm.
like hello,
Yeah.
here we are, was very intense. It actually happened while I was taking a shower, and little by little signs were leading up to it with things that were going on around me and experiences that I was put in, and I literally was just in the shower, and the next thing I know, my body kind of was on the bathtub on all fours, and I couldn't move. There was just heavy, heavy energy on my back preventing me from moving. And I just basically heard, "You're going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. You have nothing to worry about. We are here to help you." And from that moment, my life opened drastically. Like it was an explosion. I mean, that experience in that shower happened for about 2 hours, and I was crying in gratitude the whole time. And I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, what is happening to me? Oh my God. Like, it was like, okay, okay. But tons of tears. Like, it was, it was like I was waiting for that moment. And from that moment, I've never had them not by my side speaking or my higher self speaking and connected. Because I grew up in the environment that I grew up in, I um I I never really had feelings and emotions the same way a lot of people feel. I developed the definitions to my feelings as I got older. In This happened to me at 30. So imagine like never understanding what jealousy is because you don't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a very short span of emotions. It was either depression, happiness, anger. That was like the only thing I could describe. So as I was awakening or remembering and feeling, I was like, what does sympathy mean?
Mm-hmm.
What is grief? And my friends were like, are you seriously asking us this? And I
Oh.
said, yes. And I would have to Google. Like I remember the first time I felt jealousy and I was like, what is this? And I'd have to Google. And then I'd be like, oh yeah, that's this is what people mean by jealousy. So as far as emotions, there's always been a detachment, but because of the abilities that I have, I can't be attached. I could feel what someone is going through. I can see like a movie their history, the trauma, the what they're like the whole story, and I don't stay attached to it because it has to be transmuted at such a high level that I don't have time to make it personal.
Mm-hmm.
The minute I make it personal, then now I'm absorbing.
Yeah.
But with like feeling as I've gotten and grown, let's say somebody like the other day, if there's an issue with the heart or a pain in the heart, I will feel it in my heart. I physically feel their pain. So the scale is very wide. I have all the clairs, clear
Okay,
audience, clear
that's what I
sensitive,
was
clear
gonna say.
cognitive, like all the clairs, plus this hypersensitive, keen awareness to listening when someone speaks. So when they're speaking, I can like, it's
Yeah,
like finding
the
the
body.
vibrations in between the
Yeah.
words and the body. It's kind of like a psychic surgery. It's a lot going on. It's so much to compartmentalize. So I don't feel the way an empath feels,
Mm-hmm.
where you walk into a room and you're like, oh. But when I was awakening, those feelings were kicked in. So I couldn't go out in public. I had to. I remember I was a person who really was a part of the nightlife, and like, not, I was a weird kid. Like, it wasn't like I was out clubbing and doing drugs and stuff like that. I was literally just dancing and enjoying the energy in the room and just those feelings. So when I went back to that, it was too much.
Mm.
It was like, oh my God, I need to go home. Like, this is, I could hear everybody. I could feel everybody. I can, like, this energy. So I had to build a resistance.
Yeah,
Does
I
that answer
totally.
your question?
It does, and even more so because it's so fascinating. I feel like um like when I met you, like, and after you got up on stage, I was like, I have to talk to her because I don't know what it is, but I have to talk to her. And the vibe that I kind of got from you was light warrior was kind of like the phrase that kept like coming up in my head, or warrior of light. And I met a few people like, well, I met one other person like that. And the the kind of like energy, hang on, let me see what is, yeah, the kind of energy that you guys emit, it's so, it's strong, but it feels very like rooted in, like, I'm like committed to the truth, and I'm committed to something much higher than the stories that people are telling themselves that are fake anyway. So
Hmm.
that's what I stand for, and I'm going to stand in that even if it makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I just think that's so badass.
It doesn't feel that way though, like,
Yeah, it can be a turnoff for a lot of people. And I have been, when I've been like stuck in my ego thing, I know that for me that it has been a turnoff for me in the past, but as I've grown to like become more awake and aware and just more accepting of my own sensitivity, it doesn't turn me off anymore, because it's like, oh, they're not doing this because they're trying to like piss you off. They're doing this because it's their purpose. They feel like it's their calling, and that's honestly what we need right now.
it's interesting because I actually, I battle that a lot internally.
Mhm.
I've always been about the truth, and I I am a very straightforward, straight shooter.
Mhm.
So I don't, I get upset because there's a lot of times that I will say something and people think that I have an ulterior motive. And honestly, my brain doesn't think about those things. Like, I can't, I'm like, where did you have so much time to come up with that story? Like, no, what I just said is just, that's it. There's no,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do anything else, but this is it. And I get, a lot of people get defensive
Yeah.
with some of the language I use, or the fact that I won't sugarcoat anything. And it's not even, it's so ironic because even if I try, the words don't come out of my mouth. Like, I get literally tongue tied or stuck. And over this holiday, I worked on some stuff happened unexpectedly, and I got to work with an amazing group of people, and we were recapping. And one of the things that came up was how the language that I use could be a real turnoff, or a misunderstanding, that maybe I should find another way to speak about energies and chakras. And I thought about it. Everything happens to me. My most communication comes in the shower or in the ocean. Like, water is
Oh,
a portal for me to really just get 100% connected with no interference. So I'm in there and I hear, well, do you think that back in the days they had a problem using these words? Like, you're not here to sugarcoat and like I just said, like, this is the language. You have to stand in the truth, because if you don't stand in the truth, then all you're doing is still allowing that energy or those forces to succeed on their journey to shut people down from the truth. And it's tough. Like, I've had a lot of friends get turned off that are not friends. It's a really tough journey to be truthful. And
It,
it's kind of sad.
yeah, because it's very being that committed to your journey, it's very admirable, but it can also be very lonely because not everybody's going to be at that same level of consciousness. And so, yeah, I understand that. um,
But I've learned loneliness is all in your head. Like, I am not lonely anymore. Like, I had that phase of, oh, I'm lonely and I don't have people around me. And then I just actually brought me closer to myself and my guides and my inner, experience. And then just the people who are good around me. Loneliness is just another illusion.
yeah, I'm just starting to get to that point now too. So, and I'm really excited because I'm like, I have all this freedom. It's amazing. Okay. Oh, okay. Excuse me. All right. All right. So, the next question I want to ask is what practices have you done in the past or present that has really helped you to ground your energy and or hone your abilities? Or I guess in your case, it would be, because you said that you don't take anything like personally from people, emotional, energetically, or like otherwise. Um, what what practices have you done then that have just helped you maintain like a healthy sense of like energetic boundaries? Because you said like this all started in the shower with like this weight on your back. So how were you able to clear that? How were you able to make sure that you're okay?
Well, the weight on my back were my guides, so I didn't need to clear
Oh,
that.
okay.
But when I do work, let's say I work with someone and I do a cleansing and I go through that process, whatever I do for them, because it's a process. So it's not only am I the medicine, right? I'm the portal, I'm the vessel, I'm the energy coming in and out and flowing. But I use, and I've expanded throughout my time, like my toolkit. It's like I walk around with a bag filled with tools. Um, I'll use crystals, I'll use plants, I'll use water, the four elements, symbols. I channel a lot of symbols, so I'll use the symbols. I'll use drums, I'll use whatever. Like, there's so many elements that I use. So while I'm working with them, that it's also working on me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm complete, like, let's say I have you do a bath, whatever that bath that I prepare with plants and crystals, I have to do for myself. So whatever I do for someone else, I have to do for myself, because it's a mirroring exchange. So I have to clean myself. Also, I do a lot of, I'll go to the ocean, I'll go to nature and reconnect. I'll go to churches, and it doesn't matter what denomination it is, but there's a vibration in church that allows me to just get grounded and meditative and just connect. And when I tell you I'll walk into any church, it does not matter. Because it's not about the religion, it's about the sacred space. I also have my own sacred space in my house, and I listen a lot to my guides, and a lot of self understanding of who you are, what you're doing, a lot of reading, a lot of the more you understand how your energy and your gifts work, there's less of ego and doubt and fear and oh my God, all this is going to happen to me. So there's the grounding becomes a natural state of being. And also part of the awakening process and the spiritual steps of awakening, grounding becomes something that you learn to master.
Mm.
It just becomes part of you.
That's so true. And I'm doing my best to make grounding years ago when I first discovered I was like a sensitive empath. Um, I was doing it every day, and I had that experience of like separating myself from like the world almost, because I was like, I've been some bombarded my whole life and like it's not great. So I kind of like took that time to just like go within, ground, and do a lot of like the spiritual aspects. And then um I think about a year or two ago, I kind of like just dropped it off because a part of me was kind of like, my spiritual ego, as one of my teachers would say, like kind of kicked in, and it was kind of like, oh, you're not doing it like every day like as you should, you've been doing it for a while, you're doing it wrong, like you're not doing this like in order. So I was just kind of
What?
like, yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, part of me was like, fuck it, like I was having like a crisis like spiritually, because I've been on this path since I was like 14, and where I was in my life, I didn't like it, and I felt like no matter what I did, it was not like helping me. So I was just like, screw this, put it aside. Came back to it a year or two later after like being a part of the Earth booze cruise that is.
Right, right.
And then and I actually felt like those years where I wasn't doing everything spiritually perfect, um and having like my own kind of fun and just having like a human experience, because I feel like a lot of us in the spiritual community forget that yes, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but we forget the human experience part. We like try to do
Right.
everything perfectly, and then we end up feeling like resentful because we feel like it's not working, or our lives haven't really changed, or you know just our mindset and the way that we think still feels like it's the same thing that we've been telling ourselves. It takes time on this plane, and it takes practice, and
And you're right. Yeah,
having fun really helped ground me, I think,
of course.
more so than the actual like meditating every morning. Yeah.
That is, I think that's a spiritual illusion of what people think they need.
Mm,
And in my opinion, but everybody has their way that they feel like they need to connect. I think ultimately we come here to we're having a spiritual experience in the human body, but it's because we're here to experience humanness. We are
yes.
here to experience lessons that we didn't have the opportunity to learn. We're here to have fun because you don't get to have fun and have all this adventure and synchronicity and conversation and love and all this greatness that being a human has when you're just a being of light, because you're just a being of light, right?
Yeah.
So what the goal is ultimately to be the being of light merged into this body as one. And listen, there's so many forms of meditation, and you don't have to sit there in a meditative, clear your mind state to do that.
Mm,
There's so many forms to do things, and what I feel that what's happening is that this spirituality is becoming a trend
yes.
where everybody is feeling that they have to follow certain ways of being in order to fit into this spiritual tribe. But everybody comes in with a different blueprint. Everybody comes in with a different experience and things that they need to self-discover. So what works for you is not going to work for me.
Right.
And it
Exactly.
all becomes here, like it becomes an ego mental confusion. And when you're a being of light, there's none of that.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, and we talked about this very briefly at the event. I was like, yeah, like it's becoming such a trend, and boutique spirituality, as one of my friends like put it. with like just like picture perfect like photo, like gorgeous like pictures of crystals or smudge bundles, or like altars are now like I'm seeing it on my feed. And it's not to say that it's like wrong, but it feels a little bit disheartening because I don't always feel like it's genuine. If it's that perfect of a picture. And there are people that I follow that do these practices and do have put their heart into it. And so it's just like, okay, it's becoming like monetized now.
It's a pathway. If it's a pathway to finding that peace and that grounding and who you are meant to be, right? That's everybody has their pathway. So if that's going to create more harmonious vibrations, awesome. But it is also a way that energies could be like, oh, you're working this route and you're doing this, and this is the way you're supposed to, like you were saying earlier, like, I'm not doing this consistently. I'm not practicing the way I. So what really happens is that there's a negative undertone to your positive experience,
Right.
which is to create a negative experience to your purpose, to keep you off your track.
Yeah.
Fake positivity is a very dangerous, I'm just going to say gateway, which goes back to the first question about truth.
Right. Okay, so my next question for you is, I'm just jumping all over this. um, okay. Uh, so I guess my next question would be, how do you help people who are also, or do you help people who are also light warriors or have that light warrior energy within them? Because you said that, you know, what works for you doesn't work for everyone else. Have you helped anyone who kind of has like the same like energy as you? Were they open to it? Like,
I haven't met anybody as of yet that has my specific skill set.
okay.
I've been dying to meet somebody else, honestly, for a really long time. And I get that from a lot of people, a lot of workers that healers and practitioners. They're like, we haven't met anybody else like you. So it's hard to compare, but comparing is not it, right? So it's about, I feel everybody in their heart is a light warrior. I feel that that is our core sense of being. And I feel that there's just so many different types of beings working, that they all have their power and their strength and their awareness. Some of the people that I've worked with are already understand that they might be on an angelic path. So if that's the case, I help open that for them and receive more of that energy. Those are like so far I guess the closest to the energy that I have healed or worked with, those angelic beings. But have I don't know, like I've worked with shamans or curanderas, but it's not because I cleaned them, they were working on me.
Yeah.
But it's always nothing, it's always an exchange, because you're learning from me, I'm learning from you, even in that moment. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question.
I think you did. That's so okay. So this question, I guess I completely forgot to leave on here. But so you mentioned working with shamans and curanderas. So, and I said this again to you like when we spoke briefly at the event. How would you mentioned having like a toolkit with you when you help people. how do you, or what would you say is the responsible way of using these ancient wisdom techniques, like when it comes to like energy work, um, in a responsible way? Because I feel like, and I might get some flack for this, I feel like in the spiritual community, there's kind of been this like whitewashing of sorts, and um, really energy medicine. And I learned this because one of the women I follow again on Instagram, whose work I absolutely admire, she said that, you know, energy medicine is indigenous medicine, or is indigenous wisdom, or has its roots in indigeneity. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but basically it's connected to the indigenous culture. And she's right, because it's ancient wisdom, it's ancient knowledge. And sometimes I feel like we kind of lose that. We forget that that's where it comes from. And so we don't always give it the proper honor and respect that it deserves. Like, even though it's becoming a trend now, energy work is still, I kind of feel like, not there yet completely,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like being totally accepted. And if it were, I think that it might lose its, people might not know, or they'll forget that it has its roots in that. So how do you go about doing your practice and your healing sessions in a way that's responsible and that honors this lineage, or the lineage that you come from or have learned from?
I honor my lineage every day. It's not just when I'm practicing.
Mm.
I literally speak to my ancestors, my guides, my angels, my galactics, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, the whole council, every single day. My conversation and communication and relationship is part of my life. It's not part of a moment. It's not
Mhm.
a so that channel of communication and respect is consistently happening.
Mm.
Um, and I have, you know, in my sacred space, representation of all of it. Like I have a section with all my Native American Indians and my Mayans and, you know, my feathers and those tools. I have a section of all my saints and my santos and my orishas. I have a section for just my ancestors and family members that have died. I have my angels. I literally am surrounded because I don't believe, and I have my Indians, like the Hindus. I know that I've been here many lifetimes.
Mm.
And all that wisdom and knowledge has come with me for all those lifetimes. So I cannot detach from one thing and just do one thing. I incorporate it all because everybody I work with, it's like a prescription, right? You don't go to the doctor and get a symptom reading based on like the masses. I'm doing it based on you and your lineage and your energy and where you're coming. So I have to be able to pull in, well, okay, so if this person has mostly an African background, Afro-Cuban background, or African, Puerto Rican, you know, Tainos, I need to be able to be like, hey guys, come on through so that I know how to work with you. You know, if you're, that's the best way I can say that. I know there's a broad statement about energy work
Yes.
and the ancients and the wisdoms. I really, really trust my team, my spiritual squad, I call them my council of life. Um, because I will show up to go work with somebody and I'll have my little bag and I'll hear, bring that angel dictionary. And I'm like, the angel dictionary? You're gonna need it. Bring that. And you know, I'll have my arrows, I'll have all my stuff in there and I pack the dictionary. And I could be there and I remember this moment because I kept looking at the person I was working with and I was like, nothing is working. We've tried this, we've tried that. I can't get through. And then I heard, go open the dictionary. So when I went and I opened the dictionary and I opened to the page and I read the description, because I was already working on her for so long and prepping for that moment. When I found what I needed, it all related. And I was like, that's what we're dealing with. So let me call this thing out. So when I say energy, I am working with energy. You know, it's in the person, it's in spirit, it's and they listen. I was working over the holidays in the picture that you had asked me, and part of the work, I had everybody do the violet flame prayer. Mm. And you know, I adjusted it per person so that they got the awareness that they needed. So I sent them the picture of the prayer and of the book. And I said, I had this book for 10 years. And I just tossed it aside because I didn't know and couldn't connect at the time. But now it's become one of my tools. So my guides, the universe, they prep me with stuff. I've had stuff put away and didn't understand it until it was time for me to connect and use it and understand how to use it. So that is how I practice with my ancient wisdom and my team. And I just trust. I blind faith. And I honor them because I don't separate. They're part of my everyday.
Mm. That's incredible. Oh my God. No, that's such a good thing to hear, honestly, because I mean, I myself kind of like struggle with that. So I worked a lot with the angelic realm, like in my early 20s. And then when I took that break, I kind of like was like, okay, well, I've asked you guys for help so many times. I keep hearing the same thing. It's not helping me. I'm just gonna. And they've been with me still, but now I feel like it's kind of harder for me to connect, or I need to make time to reconnect with them because I have not been doing that.
or right, it's not that you're disconnected, it's just that you're grown in a new phase.
Yeah.
So the way you're expecting to hear them is not the same.
Or that too, yeah.
So
More so that, because I do.
You're looking for it to be the way you were.
Yeah.
Right. So in the space that you were able to hear them the way you wanted to hear them. But now that you're in a new space, how can you expect it to be that way?
Yes. That is a good point.
It's like going through school, right? Like you're not
Yeah.
going to speak to yourself as a first grader, as a junior high school student, you know?
Yeah. That's so true. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, here we go. If you could give one piece of advice to the younger energy sensitive generation coming up behind us, what advice would you give them?
The first thing I would say is build your relationship with your team, your source, your guides. Nothing is more important than that communication, because what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, not everybody's going to understand. Mm-hmm. And the only form of balance and safety or like comfort will come from knowing who is communicating with you, what you're feeling, and who you are. The second thing I would say is immediately when you start to feel things energetically, emotions, any kind of disruption in your system, the first thing you ask yourself is this mine, or does this belong to somebody else? Could this be coming from somewhere else? Is this sadness because I feel sad? Or is it because somebody else is feeling sad? Know yourself, know your emotions. The more you know who you are, the more neutral you'll be. And in being in that neutral space, you'll be able to identify if it's coming from outside sources, people, energies, or if it's coming from within. And if it is coming from within, take a look at it and figure out what you need to heal so that you can be back to neutral. Those would be the first two things I would say. And you're not alone.
Nope.
You're not alone.
That's so good.
And you're not crazy.
And you're not crazy. That's it.
You're not crazy. You're not crazy. You're not crazy.
You're not crazy. And even if you are, like what I say is, even if you think you're crazy, that's fine. The world is crazy. Look who we have in power right now.
Exactly.
Like,
you're not crazy, man.
You're not crazy. It's okay.
You don't need a mental institution.
No.
You don't.
No, absolutely not. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, I had a follow-up question. I just forgot it.
Okay.
Okay. So here's another one. With so many things happening in today's world, like climate change, what's happening in Australia, and then like here in the States with like the fear of like going to another pointless war. How do you see light warriors contributing to our changing world, or how have you gotten any guidance, at least for yourself, of how you will help like kind of like shift? Because I feel like um a woman I used to know told me once that before anything can be made physical, it has to be etheric. So I feel like energy work is so important, especially how like you've described it, because it's such a big contributing factor. Like, even though like physically we can see things like playing out, we need people who can like transmute this shit and like help heal, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
I think the duality is always going to be there. It has to be, because that's how you learn. That's how you grow. You know, that energy is playing its part just as much as your angels are playing their part. But with that also being said, I feel like the more that we get to heal and release and understand it and remove that shadow side and clear up, the more conscious we can be, and compassionate and considerate, and remembering the golden rule, you know, and honoring life and earth. I think with that, naturally the vibrational shifts will start occurring, that the balances within the people, the next generation that's coming is already coming with this hyper awareness. They're already coming with they're already in another dimension, right? They're
fighting for stuff that the adults here didn't, like, and it's amazing and it's inspiring, and it gives me so much hope, honestly, because I mean, like, even my generation, like we've been, what is it? I think mine is kind of like into like the culture. But I mean, people make fun of that, but at the same time, I'm like, no, it's like, it's because we're so aware. And yeah, some of it could be rooted in like the ego, where you take things personally, but they're just sick and tired of seeing all of these systems that have been put in place and kind of just accepted by the older generation, and they're not willing to do it anymore.
I think for me, the beauty would be to see this world really just be one, understanding oneness, understanding each other. But part of it needs to die. Like, this stuff needs to happen in order for it to get there. And it kills me to see Australia in a situation it's in, and the way that Brazil and the fire has been, I guess, a prominent energy force for the last 2 years now, just destroying, which only leads, that means the other elements are going to kick in soon too, right? So,
like, we see it in Puerto Rico with the earthquakes. That's so sad.
Well, before it was the floods. Before that was floods, like, right? So the hurricanes were everywhere in all parts of the world, and now it's the fire, and the earthquakes are earth. The elements are reacting. I don't understand exactly I don't have the hyper awareness of knowing why, but there's a it's kind of like karma repeats, history repeats, and there has to be a rebirth that's going on. And I pray that there's still an earth,
Yeah.
and for us to even be a part of.
Yeah.
But the next generation, I feel, are definitely coming through to make some major changes, and it's our responsibility to lay the groundwork
Yes.
and leave them the tools that they need.
Yeah. For sure. For
Which
sure.
is one of the things we both discussed, that we both would like to create.
Yes.
Um, and I was thinking about it over the week. Like, I don't know if I want my bird. My bird is agreeing.
Oh.
I don't know if I want to call it a school, or like
Yeah.
a camp. It's not even that, but
It's Earth School. No.
not even. It's like one of the ideas was, and I guess this is something that it would be in the future, like the journey of this. Like my whole thing is Souls United, and it may be like the journey of the Souls United, like comes there, because we're all still on a journey.
Yeah.
But to be able to teach people who are gifted, who are having their talents awaken, and give them a safe space to be able to learn what they're going through, how to improve and hone in on their abilities and their mind and their body and their spirit, and then be able to take all of that and go into the world and do what they're meant to do.
Yeah.
And it's like really cool that we
Yeah.
call it the X-Men school, right?
Yeah.
That's how I've always called it, the X-Men school.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I remember from that series. And I used to be like in the comic book world, not so much anymore, but yes, that would be amazing. And it's so funny because like I kind of feel like I'm just starting to sort of kind of understand what my type of energy sensitive is. Like I feel like I could really help people feel okay with like having an open heart, because I've had it my whole life and it's not easy, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just learned to really cherish it. And I've also learned that when your heart is already open, you kind of naturally create this safe container that when other people come into, and I think you told me this at the event, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, like I'm able to create a space where the other person feels like, oh, it's okay to share with her. Like I can't tell you how many dates I've been with the guy where it's the first date and he starts telling me his life story and I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And perhaps you're just meant to meet those people just to give them that space to clear and
Yes.
to
Yeah,
heal.
right.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Just
And
when you
it's,
just want to be normal.
yeah. Yeah. But I'm grateful for those experiences because I'm like, oh well, I was able to create I was able to provide a space of safety for them to feel heard and to share, because you don't know if they have that in their life and in the life outside of you.
Well, one of the things that I said was so unique about your empathic. What did I call you? I called you an empathic, intuitive,
Sensitive.
sensitive, an empathic, intuitive, sensitive. So it's like with what I was saying about you is that you're instantly in tune with the other person, and you know that there's this negative space,
Mhm.
or grief or sadness or darker level of density of energy, that's creating all these emotions for them, and you kind of like a spiral work the light around it,
Mhm.
kind of open that space, and you don't jab at it and you don't poke at the darkness, but you fill them in with that light that you have to fill in the holes of the. It's like your light fills in the holes of the darkness around it
Mhm.
with conversation and exchange of energy and your presence and your love and all this that you come with. It's like a flower in reverse. I can't explain it. I can only show you how I see it, but that's what you're doing.
Mhm.
And you come and you're like, all right, well, I'm giving you the space to speak, and I'm gonna wrap it. I'm gonna give you an internal hug.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's so true because I do my best to, when someone shares with me something, like I have one of my close friends, right? So she was sharing with me something that had happened that was like really not great. And she really felt some kind of way about it. So I'm like listening to her and I'm providing a space for her, but I'm also like, I'm like trying to show her like different, like how to look at it differently. And in doing that, like I've done that with other people too, where I kind of just like soothe them and be like, okay, your experience is valid. Like I understand like, you know, why that would be so, why that would hurt because I feel it. Like I'm like, oh, like, you know, I'm so sorry. And I just feel like people like back I think in the early 2000s when I first started getting into this, one of the things that I remember hearing from a spiritual teacher was stop telling your story, like stop sharing your story or something like that. And then as I got older, from another person, another spiritual teacher who I absolutely adore now, he's like, no, like don't not tell your story. Tell me your story because I want to know like what you like. What did he say? What you survived through. Like I want to be able to hold that space for you, and it's okay for you to have a story. You don't not have to have a story. That's like basically impossible if you're a human, right?
Mhm.
You live
Mhm.
and one of the things that I kind of realized was that no matter what your story is, if you're sensitive, you are just naturally resilient. Like there's this misconception that if you're emotional or like what I heard growing up was constantly, oh, you're too sensitive, like get over it, like you got to stop, you know, being this sensitive. Like no, that's just you're strong as fuck. Like you have to
But
be.
you know, absolutely, and you know, those conversations to stop you and to keep you shut up and to like those people are placed in your path to test you, right? Like they're doing their part. That's another. That's like what I was saying earlier about how like you have angels, but you do have the other side working against you too because they're playing their role. So those people who are telling you to shut up or you're too sensitive or you're weak or why do you cry so much or why does everything get you're so dramatic,
Mm,
all those things are in place to try to break you.
mm,
And it's either you're going to be broken or you're going to become resilient. You're
mm,
either going to break and fall off the path and, you know, go to the left and because eventually you got to come back. So it'll only get harder.
it doesn't, yeah.
Or build that inner strength, that self love. You know, so many people are talking about self love. And I feel like that's also something that's being tossed around a lot without explaining how do you build self love? Where does
Mm,
self love come from? You know, what are the steps to love yourself? Well, when someone is consistently bashing you for being you, it's either you're going to believe them and fall for that illusion that they're trying to create with you, or you're like, nah, no, I'm not too dramatic. I know what I'm feeling. I'm not crazy. Actually, I'm okay with this. And you build your resilience, and then just builds your confidence, and it builds your ability. Like you only get stronger so that you get to the point when you're working with someone and you're healing them that you're feeling all of this coming off of them, and you're sitting there saying, I feel you, but it's not mine. But I'm going to hold the space with you so that you no longer feel it. So you could get the self love and the healing that you need.
mm. Which
So
is
thank you, assholes.
basically. um, okay, and I think is that all of that? Sorry, give me 1 second here.
You had asked me in the list of questions if I ever got to a point where I was conflicted and wanted to give it back.
Yes, yes, that one.
I did.
Mm.
I really, really did. That year, and you know, this is my anniversary time of when I started to get my gifts. It starts around Christmas and it runs all the way through Easter.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry, my dog is playing with me. So after a couple of the healings, and like I didn't understand, like when you're this type of a vessel, when you're this type of a portal, and you have physical transformation occurring to you, because like, it goes back to speaking your truth and telling your stories, which I've been very resistant in doing because I'm fearful. But here's the challenge to release that. Part of my ability is that I shapeshift, and I literally transform to that energy that someone has. And you physically see it with your own eyes, so that you see that I'm not insane and you're not insane. And the thing is that to be able to receive, and there she is,
Aww.
To be able to receive energy on that darkness, you have to be in such a state of surrender and out of your mind, and allowing this to come through, because for me, the only way to transmute it is for it to be fully evolved.
Can I ask you a quick question? When
Absolutely.
You say darkness, what does that mean? Is it like the trauma that you're picking up from the person? Is it something is it more sinister?
Energy eventually, just like angels, there are demons. There are demons, there are levels of demonic energies, there are spirits that are darker, there are like, yes, your family's on the other side as a ghost, as a spirit, right? Like as a spiritual energy. But there are people manipulating the other side of those energies too. And there was those energies, like that come in, and you have those paranormal experiences is valid.
Yeah.
So those energies are being removed and released. And, I've learned throughout my years, I've been doing this for 16 years now. Before, I would just take everything from the person and take it all on, and they would feel amazing, but never understood the impact of this work, and then go out and repeat the same things to create the same experience. Yeah, but I needed to learn that I can't be so subservient like that. Now it's a completely different process, and I know a lot of people say you can't take in the energy. Yes, 99.9% of the people cannot take that energy in, because they are not built for it.
No, yeah.
They are not equipped to handle it, transmute it, face it, And unfortunately, that is the first gift I came with.
Oh, damn. Oh my God. You got a crash course.
I did. When I tell you that bathtub experience, and over the first few months, like, it was a very intense crash course. And I was like, what is going on? As accepting as I was, I had to put myself in a space to not be outside, to evaluate, to let my awareness kick in, pray, do what I needed to do. I don't know if you heard, sorry.
No, I did. Yeah.
Oh. I had a lot of awareness that I had to go through, right? But, here you are, like, all of a sudden you're normal, and the next thing you know, that you're cleaning somebody, and you're transmuting, and you're sounding like a roaring dragon, right? And you just don't understand how your body goes from one extreme to the other. I'm physically, mentally, I am a healer of mind, body, soul, spirit,
the whole shebang.
Other worlds, right? So it's a whole thing. And I walked into church, because I told you that's my grounding. Like, I was raised Catholic, but it's funny because until I got my gifts, I never read the Bible. I went to Catholic school, but they never gave us a Bible. So I only knew a couple of prayers, but I always had a deep rooted relationship with God, source. Everybody has their definition. But that was my sacred space, and I walked right into church, went right up to the statue of Jesus. That's where I was led, and I was angry, literally angry, and I was on my knees crying, and I was like, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't deserve this. I am not worthy of this. This is too much responsibility. Please take this back. I said, is this what you wanted to see? You wanted to see me on my knees crying? Well, here I am. I'm on my knees crying, and I'm telling you, I don't deserve this. I'm not worthy of this. You can't give me the responsibility of people's lives like this. This is too much. I had a full whispering, screaming
Oh my God.
meltdown.
Oh.
And I was like, take it back. And I was a mess. And I got up and I walked out the church. And I tried to get into my car. They're very good at stopping me. And I tried to get into my car. And
Oh, those
there was
spirit guides.
there was two nuns sitting outside. And I walked right up to them. And I said, excuse me, can I speak to you? And they were from Colombia. So I spoke to them in Spanish. And I said, can I ask you a question? How did you feel when you realized that this was your path, that you were going to take the path of being a nun? And like, she took a deep breath and she was just like, I was merciful. I cried and cried. I didn't understand. She said, but then, I'm glad this is my journey. And I said, oh, okay. She's like, do you want to come inside? And I was like, come inside where? Like, she's like, into the convent to speak. And I said, okay. So I go inside and, they asked me my name and where do I live? And then they asked, so how did you feel when you found out that this was your journey? And I was like, I can't take it. I just finished crying to Jesus. I don't understand what's going on. And I had like this complete meltdown all over again. And she said to me, it's okay. Like, tell us more. What are you doing? What are you experiencing? So, I'm having this moment of unleashing of what my last 4 months have been. And they were crazy. It's a crazy, supernatural, only on TV experience. So at the end of it, they were like, just make sure that when the time comes, you name your friends, your circle that you're working with. And you just continue to do your mission. And we want you to know we knew who you were when you walked into church. And I said, well, who am I? What do you know? And they're like, well, it was great talking to you. Bye. And threw me out the door.
Oh my God.
This is a true story.
Wow.
I would say 2 years later, after doing a lot of work, my gifts got turned off randomly. I wasn't even expecting it. They just shut down. I wasn't able to do anything. And I was like, what's happening to me? And I felt such a void, this deep, deep void. I can never describe it. It's such a emptiness. And I just kept saying, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, nothing is satisfying me. Nothing is, and I don't do my work for money. I think I just charged people in the last year, and it's very little. I was doing it for free. I still do it for free sometimes. There's no monetary exchange. I was just giving so much, and I just felt so empty. And I was just like, I'm just not living my purpose. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just, this is terrible. I need to get back to it. And the universe shut me down. And I guess I needed to go through that to really appreciate the contrast and the gift and the beauty and understanding that, wow, I am worthy. Like, they thought I was worthy enough to have this gift, to be able to give to people, to transform their lives immediately, and it's a lot to hold a life in your hand like that. And then I went back and I said, okay. And I was conflicted for a long time too, between acting and my spiritual practice. I would not sleep. I would have these battles in my head because I would be like, how dare I, now that I'm like accepting, how dare I want to be an actor and be in entertainment and want to perform when God, the universe, has given me such a huge blessing? Like, I am doing a disservice. And it was a struggle until I realized what the power of an actor is. And that is to be able to tell the truth under imaginary circumstances and be the voice for those who can't speak. So finding how to merge it back to the beginning of this conversation, which is, you know, you're here as a human being having a spiritual experience, but you're really spiritually a light trying to merge as a human to complete your lessons and what you wanted to learn. So I think everybody goes through that at one point where they're like, screw this, I don't want this, I don't deserve this, or whatever the conflict is. And if you come to that point, it's okay. It's okay to reject it. It's okay to say you don't want it, to put it on pause.
It'll make its way back around at some point. Just know that.
Whether you like it or not.
That happened to me when I was on my right, because I was on the precipice of saying like, fuck it, like this isn't, I don't know about this. Like right before that, I've read tarot cards since I was 18, so about almost like 9 years. When I'd always done them for free, and then I wanted to start charging. But then when I started charging, I noticed that I felt like my gift kind of shifted, because I would channel messages from the angelic realm that I worked with, and like how you said, I was always able to kind of like work that energy like into my readings and help make the other person feel a lot better and give them advice like from that perspective. And they like, I loved doing it. People loved the results they were getting from me. And then like, I think a few months before I was like, fuck this. I was like, I'm not reading the way that I used to. Like, I'm not hearing anything. Like, I'm doubting what I'm like getting. I don't know if I'm getting anything anymore. And I kind of just put the cards away for like a year. And then when I got back to it, it was so random because I was reading to someone, and this has never happened. Like, I've always been, through the cards, I've kind of been able to like, and asking questions to like find out what people are going through. And sometimes I can sort of intuitively tell. But this was like, I was starting to see like different scenarios that their life could play out in my mind's eye. And then I would tell them that. So it was kind of like a weird premonition kind of thing. And then they would come back to me. They started coming back to me like months after, and they were like, yeah, you said this was going to happen. And then like it happened. And like you said that this was going to like possibly occur. And it's kind of like in the works now. So I was like, what? I was like, wait a second.
Me? I said that?
I was like, no, I would literally tell them, I'd be like, you remember? Like, I said that? I was like, I can't remember, because when I'm in the zone, like, it's not you. Like, you're not. So I tell them, I'm like, make sure you have like a pen and paper, because I'm not going to remember what I tell you.
I say the same thing. I'm like, I hope you're recording, because I don't know what I'm going to say. Like, once it's out, it's out.
Oh my God. Okay. So, thank you so much for doing this. I feel like this is really going to help a lot of people. And I hope we can do like a part 2 at some point.
Absolutely. And thank you. Like, thank you for giving me the first platform to really speak about all of this.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in, I don't know, hesitation, hiding. I don't know what it is. I don't want to say hiding, because I don't hide.
Yeah.
I'm out there. You know, if people come up to me and they're meant for me to work with, I will work with them. I talk to everybody. But I haven't been using a platform to start speaking. And this is where I'm going next. And this is a beautiful way to start 2020, you know, the new year and this new phase where I'm at, and you are giving me the first pathway to start speaking. You know, I am going to be writing my book.
Good.
of
I'm like,
my journey, my crazy, crazy journey. And um, some of the things that will include would be certain types of, this bird is going crazy, certain type of tools and healings and techniques for people, like a manual that will come out too. These are things that I'm developing um, as I get the funding to open that academy school, is,
do
you
a
know,
Patreon.
whatever we're gonna call
Yeah. Okay, so
sacred space.
where can people reach you if they want to get in contact with you
Right now, the easiest is at Souls United on
on
Instagram.
Instagram? Okay. All right.
The website will be at Souls United Inc. INC.
Okay.
So that's still under development, but Instagram right now.
Do you know when that's gonna launch or?
I would say let's give it a month. Hold
Okay.
me to it.
Okay.
Hold me to it. It's
Okay.
just language. Again, it's just language.
All right. Cool. All right. So I'm gonna stop the recording now. And thanks
Thank
for
you
guys
again
for
so
watching.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And where is the aha?